I get my death row symbol. Civilization of greatness. Yeah, pull yours out, DK.
Snoop Dogg is undeniably one of the most iconic figures in the rap game, and his influence on the genre cannot be overstated. However, considering where he is from, the reality is that his journey could have easily taken a darker turn. From involvement in street shootouts to being linked to one of the most significant cold cases, Snoop's story might have easily become another tragic tale of a rapper's life cut short at the age of 20. In this video, I will explore how Snoop Dogg is the only one who stayed alive. Association with death row. Born and raised in Long Beach, California, Snoop Dogg, whose real name is Calvin Cortazar Broadus Jr., grew up in a neighborhood riddled with gang violence and poverty. Despite the challenging circumstances, Snoop Dogg found solace in music from a young age. Influenced by the soulful sounds of artists like Stevie Wonder and Marvin Gaye, Snoop Dogg developed a passion for music early on. However, it was the emerging hip-hop scene that truly captured his attention. Inspired by the likes of NWA and Ice-T, Snoop Dogg began to experiment with his own rhymes and flows. It was during his teenage years that Snoop Dogg's talent caught the attention of his cousin, Nate Dogg, and the two began collaborating on music together. Their partnership would prove to be a pivotal moment in Snoop Dogg's career, as it led to his introduction to the legendary Dr. Dre. In 1992, Snoop Dogg's life changed forever when he was featured on Dr. Dre's iconic album, The Chronic. His smooth delivery and unique vocal style immediately stood out, captivating listeners and leaving them hungry for more. The track that truly put Snoop Dogg on the map was Nothing But a G Thing, a collaboration with Dr. Dre that became an instant hit. With his newfound fame, Snoop Dogg signed with Death Row Records. This partnership would prove to be both a blessing and a curse for Snoop Dogg. While it catapulted him to stardom, it also exposed him to the darker side of the music industry. During this time, Snoop Dogg's image became synonymous with gangster rap, reflecting the realities of his upbringing and the environment he came from. His lyrics often depicted the harsh realities of street life, and his persona exuded an aura of danger and rebellion. This combination of talent, image, and controversy made Snoop Dogg an instant sensation. However, with success came scrutiny. Snoop Dogg found himself at the center of controversy, facing legal troubles and accusations of promoting violence and misogyny through his music. Despite these challenges, Snoop Dogg remained resilient, using his platform to shed light on the issues plaguing his community and advocating for change. In 1993, Snoop Dogg released his debut album, Doggy Style, which became an instant classic. The album showcased his lyrical prowess and storytelling abilities, solidifying his status as one of the most talented artists in the industry. Songs like Gin and Juice and Murder Was the Case became anthems of the era, further cementing Snoop Dogg's place in hip-hop history. As the 1990s progressed, Snoop Dogg continued to dominate the charts and collaborate with some of the biggest names in the industry. His versatility as an artist allowed him to explore different genres and experiment with his sound, further expanding his fan base. Beyond his music, Snoop Dogg's larger-than-life personality and charisma made him a pop culture icon. He made appearances in movies and television shows, showcasing his acting skills and further solidifying his status as a multi-talented entertainer. However, with fame came personal struggles. Snoop Dogg battled with substance abuse and legal issues, which threatened to derail his career. But through it all, he managed to overcome adversity and reinvent himself time and time again. Snoop Dogg's unique style and undeniable talent not only solidified his place in music history, but also left an indelible mark on popular culture. One of the defining moments of Snoop Dogg's career came with the release of his second album, Thaw Dogfather, in 1996. The album showcased his growth as an artist and further solidified his status as a hip-hop icon. Tracks like Snoop's Upside Your Head and Vapors demonstrated his versatility and ability to adapt to changing musical trends. Beyond his solo work, Snoop Dogg's collaborations with other artists during the 1990s were instrumental in shaping the hip-hop landscape. His partnership with Dr. Dre continued to yield chart-topping hits, including Still DRE and The Next Episode. These collaborations showcased Snoop Dogg's ability to seamlessly blend his unique style with different musical genres, further expanding his fan base. Snoop Dogg's cultural significance during the 1990s cannot be overstated. He became a symbol of West Coast rap and embodied the laid-back, carefree attitude that defined the era. His fashion choices, including his signature braids, oversized jerseys, and bandanas, became iconic and influenced a generation of fans. Moreover, Snoop Dogg's impact extended beyond music. His larger-than-life personality and charisma made him a sought-after guest on talk shows and award award ceremonies, further solidifying his status as a household name. In addition to his musical and cultural impact, Snoop Dogg's business ventures during the 1990s showcased his entrepreneurial spirit. He launched his own record label, Doggy Style Records, and ventured into the world of fashion with his clothing line, Doggy Style Clothing. These endeavors allowed him to diversify his portfolio and solidify his status as a savvy businessman. Snoop Dogg's influence on the hip-hop scene during the 1990s extended far beyond his music and fashion choices. He became a symbol of resilience and success, inspiring countless aspiring artists to pursue their dreams. His rise to prominence paved the way for future generations of hip-hop artists who looked to him as a trailblazer and role model. Snoop Dogg's affiliation with Death Row Records played a significant role in shaping his early career and establishing his place in the music industry. The label, known for its controversial reputation and ties to gang activity, provided a platform for Snoop Dogg to showcase his talent and push boundaries with his music. During his time with Death Row Records, Snoop Dogg became a prominent figure in the West Coast hip-hop scene. He collaborated with fellow artists on the label, including Dr. Dre and Thaw Dog Pound, and contributed to the iconic sound that defined the era. His smooth delivery, laid-back style, and captivating storytelling abilities made him a fan favorite. However, Snoop Dogg's association with Death Row Records was not without its challenges. The label was embroiled in a bitter feud with East Coast label Bad Boy Records, led by Sean Diddy Combs and Biggie Smalls. This rivalry escalated to the point of violence, with tragic consequences for both sides. This rivalry claimed the lives of many prominent artists, including the notorious and even the legendary Tupac. The streets would have almost claimed Snoop's life too, but here is how he managed to stay alive. East Coast versus West Coast rivalry. In the late 1980s, hip-hop was on the rise, captivating audiences with its raw energy and lyrical prowess. The East Coast, particularly New York City, became the epicenter of the rap scene, with artists like Run DMC, LL Cool J, and Public Enemy dominating the charts. Their music showcased the gritty realities of urban life, resonating with listeners across the nation. Meanwhile, on the other side of the country, a new sound was emerging from the streets of Los Angeles. NWA, led by Dr. Dre, Ice Cube, and Eazy-E, introduced the world to gangsta rap with their groundbreaking album, Straight Outta Compton. Their lyrics painted a vivid picture of life in the inner city, addressing issues of police brutality, gang violence, and social inequality. As hip-hop continued to gain mainstream popularity, the rivalry between the East Coast and the West Coast began to take shape. The East Coast prided itself on its lyrical prowess and storytelling abilities, with artists like Rakim, Big Daddy Kane, and KRS-One setting the standard for intricate wordplay and thought-provoking lyrics. On the other hand, the West Coast embraced a more laid-back and gangsta rap style. Artists like Ice-T, Too Short, and Eazy-E brought a new level of authenticity to the genre, drawing from their own experiences growing up in the streets of Los Angeles. Their music reflected the harsh realities of gang life, drugs, and violence. But it wasn't just a clash of musical styles. The rivalry between the East Coast and the West Coast extended beyond the music industry. It became a battle for dominance, with each coast vying for recognition and respect. The media played a significant role in fueling the flames, pitting artists against each other and sensationalizing their differences. In the early 1990s, two rising stars emerged as the faces of this rivalry: Tupac Shakur and Biggie Smalls. Both artists hailed from different coasts, each representing their respective regions with pride. Their music and personas embodied the essence of their coast style, but their differences went beyond just their music. Tupac, born and raised in East Harlem, New York City, had a tumultuous upbringing. He was no stranger to the harsh realities of life in the inner city, having witnessed poverty, violence, and systemic injustice firsthand. His music reflected his experiences, addressing social issues and advocating for change. Biggie Smalls, on the other hand, grew up in the tough streets of Brooklyn, New York. His lyrics were a reflection of his own struggles and triumphs, painting a vivid picture of life in the urban jungle. Biggie's smooth delivery and introspective storytelling captivated audiences, earning him a loyal following. As their careers took off, the rivalry between Tupac and Biggie intensified. Their differences in style, persona, and even record label affiliations fueled the flames of the East Coast versus West Coast feud. Tupac aligned himself with Death Row Records, a West Coast label known for its gangsta rap roster, while Biggie found success under the guidance of Sean Diddy Combs at Bad Boy Records, an East Coast powerhouse. The animosity between Tupac and Biggie was palpable. They exchanged verbal jabs in their lyrics, each taking shots at the other's coast and personal lives. The media eagerly covered their every move, turning their rivalry into a spectacle for the world to witness. But beneath the surface, there was a deeper connection between Tupac and Biggie. They had once been friends, sharing a mutual respect for each other's talent. However, as the rivalry escalated, their friendship friendship turned sour, and they found themselves on opposite sides of a bitter divide. The tension between Tupac and Biggie reached a boiling point in 1994 when Tupac was shot multiple times in a New York City recording studio. Although he survived the attack, Tupac believed that Biggie and his associates were involved, fueling his anger and paranoia. Instead of showing sympathy and love after the shooting, Biggie released a song a year later titled "Who Shot Ya?" This track was widely interpreted by Tupac and many others as a diss, further solidifying the belief in Biggie's complicity in the shooting. This incident further deepened the rift between the two artists and solidified their positions as the figureheads of the East Coast versus West Coast rivalry. Little did anyone know that the events set in motion by this rivalry would lead to a tragic end for both Tupac Shakur and Biggie Smalls. The seeds of animosity had been sown, and the world of hip-hop would never be the same. The East Coast versus West Coast rivalry wasn't just a battle between individual artists. It extended to the record labels that represented them. Death Row Records, led by Marion Suge Knight, became the face of the West Coast, while Bad Boy Records, helmed by Sean Diddy Combs, held the reins on the East Coast. These two labels became the epicenter of the feud, with each side vying for dominance and supremacy in the rap industry. Death Row Records, based in Los Angeles, was known for its roster of talented artists, including Dr. Dre, Snoop Dogg, and of course, Tupac Shakur. Under the leadership of Suge Knight, the label embraced the gangsta rap image, aligning itself with the streets of LA and the notorious Bloods gang. This affiliation with gang factions added a dangerous element to the rivalry, blurring the lines between music and street life. The feud between Death Row and Bad Boy Records escalated rapidly, with each side accusing the other of stealing artists, sabotaging careers, and even inciting violence. The media eagerly covered every twist and turn, turning the rivalry into a spectacle for the masses. It seemed that no one was safe from the crossfire of this bitter feud. Gang factions in Los Angeles played a significant role in fueling the tensions between the East Coast and the West Coast. The Bloods and Crips, two notorious gangs with a long history of violence, became entangled in the rap rivalry. Artists affiliated with Death Row Records often had ties to the Bloods, while those associated with Bad Boy Records had connections to the Crips. The involvement of these gangs added a dangerous element to the rivalry, as disputes between artists and their respective labels spilled over into the streets. Shootings, assaults, and even murders became all too common, leaving a trail of devastation in their wake. The music industry was no longer just about the music. It had become a battleground for power and control. The media frenzy surrounding the East Coast versus West Coast rivalry only served to exacerbate the tensions. Tabloids and magazines sensationalized the feud, pitting artists against each other and perpetuating the narrative of a violent and volatile industry. The public became enthralled with the drama, eagerly consuming every piece of news and gossip. But amidst the chaos and violence, there were those who sought to bridge the divide. Artists like Common, Nas, and Jay-Z recognized the destructive nature of the rivalry and attempted to promote unity and collaboration. They believed that music should be a unifying force, not a catalyst for violence and division. Unfortunately, their efforts were overshadowed by the escalating tensions and tragic events that unfolded. The rivalry had taken on a life of its own, fueled by ego, pride, and a thirst for power. The lines between art and reality had blurred, and the consequences would be devastating. The involvement of gang factions and the bitter feud between Death Row Records and Bad Boy Records had turned the East Coast versus West Coast rivalry into a dangerous and deadly game. The music industry had become a battlefield, leaving a trail of broken lives and shattered dreams in its wake. Snoop's ties to these feuds would ultimately lead him down a dangerous path, one that would culminate in a shocking incident that would change his life forever. The events leading up to Snoop Dogg's arrest began with a heated confrontation between Snoop and rival gang members. Tensions were high and the situation quickly escalated. It was a clash of egos, a battle for respect and territory. But what started as a war of words soon turned deadly. In the chaos that ensued, Snoop's bodyguard, in an attempt to protect his client, fired a single shot. The consequences were devastating. One of the rival gang members lay lifeless on the ground, a victim of the violence that had consumed the streets. The media frenzy surrounding the case only intensified the pressure. The world watched as the search for Snoop Dogg reached a fever pitch. But eventually, Snoop made the difficult decision to turn himself in. He knew that running would only make matters worse, and he wanted to face the consequences of his actions head on. Subsequently, Snoop was arraigned and charged with first-degree murder, but he pleaded self-defense, claiming that the victim had a gun and posed a threat to their lives. They argued that they had been targeted by the rival gang and had no choice but to defend themselves. As the trial progressed, it became clear that there were flaws in the case against Snoop. The defense presented evidence that the victim had a gun in his possession at the time of the shooting, supporting Snoop's claims of self-defense. The trial was a spectacle, with the media closely following every twist and turn. The nation held its breath as the jury deliberated, knowing that their decision would have far-reaching implications. Just barely 7 months after Snoop was acquitted of murder charges, Tupac would be killed. On the night of September September 7th, 1996, Tupac attended the Mike Tyson vs. Bruce Seldon boxing match at the MGM Grand in Las Vegas. After the fight, Tupac and his entourage got into a physical altercation with Orlando "Baby Lane" Anderson that had to be broken up by security. Later that night, as Tupac and Knight were driving through the streets of Las Vegas, a white Cadillac pulled up alongside their vehicle and opened fire. Tupac was struck multiple times and rushed to the hospital, where he succumbed to his injuries 6 days later. Biggie Smalls would later die in the rivalry just 6 months later. His family claimed Marion Suge Knight was responsible, as Knight was looking for blood after the attack on Biggie Smalls. Snoop Dogg blames Diddy. Tupac's death got to Snoop. The two iconic figures in the world of hip-hop shared a complex and deeply personal relationship. Their bond was a roller coaster ride of admiration, tension, and remorse. Snoop Dogg, in an interview, opened up about the profound impact Tupac had on his life and the music industry as a whole. Snoop Dogg described Tupac as not just a friend, but also a mentor and a brother figure. He spoke of Tupac's artistry and how he fearlessly expressed his thoughts and emotions through his music. Snoop Dogg acknowledged that while he admired Tupac's talent, he wasn't always fully aligned with his aggressive stance. Their friendship faced its fair share of challenges, and at one point, it even strained. Snoop Dogg recalled a heartbreaking moment when he fainted upon seeing Tupac comatose in the hospital. It was a stark reminder of the fragility of life and the devastating consequences of violence. Despite the ups and downs, Snoop Dogg's respect and love for Tupac remained unwavering. He recognized the profound influence Tupac had on the hip-hop community and the messages he conveyed through his lyrics. Their collaborations were a testament to the deep connection they shared as artists. Before Tupac's death, Snoop Dogg was still signed to Death Row Records and had recently collaborated with Tupac on the single "Two of America's Most Wanted," which was featured on Tupac's All Eyes on Me album. Here is him saying how he felt after realizing Tupac's condition.
We feeling like it's gonna be all right until we go to the hospital and see that it ain't all right. He got tubes in him, and it's like, when I walked in, I could just feel like he wasn't even there. And I fainted.
According to Snoop, when they got to Vegas to see Pac, they went to Suge's house where Suge tried to console them, saying that Tupac was in a stable condition. According to him, Pac gonna be alright. He gonna pull through. He got shot 9 times before he gonna be alright. Even though Snoop and Tupac were not on the best terms at the time of the shooting, Tupac's mother urged him to put their differences aside, saying, "My baby loves you." For a long time after Tupac's death, the identity of his murderers remained unknown, with only theories circulating. However, during this period, one man's name was frequently mentioned: Diddy. Snoop's long-standing relationship with both Tupac and Diddy puts him in a unique position, one that could potentially shed light on the events leading up to Tupac's fatal shooting. The police have been tightening the noose, and Diddy finds himself in a precarious situation as Snoop's potential revelations intensify the spotlight on him. If there's any truth to the accusations against Diddy, he should be wary of the consequences that may follow. The arrest of Keith D, who is directly connected to Tupac's shooting, adds another layer to the investigation. Keith D's admission and revelations about his nephew's involvement provide further insight into the final moments leading up to the drive-by shooting. Keith D has blamed Diddy, suggesting that he was the one who offered to pay $1 million for Tupac's assassination. Snoop Dogg's involvement in the case stems from a deep desire for justice and the urge to right past wrongs. His potential testimony could potentially bring closure to one of the music world's most enduring mysteries. Snoop's unique position, straddling alliances with both Diddy and Keith D, transforms him into a pivotal figure in this narrative. The truth, no matter how deeply buried, eventually finds its way to the surface. Fans have differing opinions on Snoop's involvement and whether his revelations will unravel the mystery surrounding Tupac's death. The relationship between these hip-hop legends is deeply personal to their followers, and the revelations could have a profound impact on how Tupac's legacy is perceived. Now, you might be wondering why this case took so long. The investigation into Tupac's murder was marred by a lack of cooperation and conflicting accounts of the events that took place that fateful night. Despite numerous theories and speculations, the case remained unsolved, leaving fans and investigators alike searching for answers. Fast forward almost 3 decades to the present day. The case had gone cold, and it seemed like the truth behind Tupac's murder would forever remain a mystery. But then, a breakthrough occurred that would reignite the investigation and bring us closer to the truth. Keith D. Davis would make a guest appearance on Vlad TV, where he made shocking revelations about the complicity of Diddy to the murder of Tupac. Keffi D was a member of the Southside Crips, a notorious gang known for its involvement in criminal activities. He was no stranger to the rap scene, having connections to both Death Row Records and Bad Boy Records. It was Keffi D's own public comments that would ultimately lead to his arrest. In a stunning turn of events, he confessed to his involvement in the murder of Tupac Tupac Shakur during an interview for a documentary titled Murder Rap. This confession sent shockwaves through the music industry and reignited the investigation into Tupac's murder. According to Keffe D's account, he was present in the car that carried the shooter on the night of the drive-by shooting. He claimed that he provided the gun used in the murder, but he did not pull the trigger himself. Keffe D alleged that the order to kill Tupac came from none other than Sean Diddy Combs, who wanted revenge for the ongoing feud between Tupac and Biggie Smalls. The allegations against Diddy were nothing short of sensational. The idea that one of the biggest names in the music industry could be connected to the death of Tupac Shakur sent shockwaves through the world. But it wasn't just Diddy who was implicated in the murder. Keffe D also claimed that Marion Suge Knight, the CEO of Death Row Records, had hired a Bloods gang member to kill Biggie Smalls in retaliation. These shocking revelations raised numerous questions and cast a dark shadow over the music industry. Was it possible that the deaths of two iconic rappers were connected? Was there a larger conspiracy at play? The LAPD, who had assigned retired detective Greg Kading to reinvestigate the murders in 2006, now faced the daunting task of unraveling the truth behind these allegations. However, the case took an unexpected turn when the LAPD essentially dropped the investigation, citing that there was not enough evidence to exonerate themselves. Kading, who had worked tirelessly on the case, alleged that the LAPD chose not to pursue formal charges due to Diddy's celebrity status and the fact that the evidence pointed to two deceased killers. The arrest of Keffe D, the alleged mastermind behind Tupac's murder, brought a glimmer of hope to those seeking justice. With all other direct conspirators or participants deceased, Keffe D's arrest was seen as a significant development in the case. The rapper's sister, Sekiwa Set Shakur, called the arrest a victory and emphasized the importance of acknowledging the passing of her brother. According to reports, Keffe D provided the gun used in the drive-by shooting that claimed Tupac's life. However, it wasn't until his own public comments that the investigation gained new momentum. Keffe D's words revived interest in the case, prompting law enforcement to take a closer look at his involvement. But what does this arrest mean for the case? Will it finally bring closure to the mystery surrounding Tupac's death? And what about the alleged connection to music mogul Sean Diddy Combs? These are questions that demand answers, and we're here to uncover the truth. The alleged connection between Sean Diddy Combs and the death of Tupac Shakur has been a subject of intense speculation and controversy for years. In the documentary Murder Rap, based on the book by retired LAPD detective Greg Kading, affirms Keffe D's revelations. According to Kading, Diddy hired a gang member to carry out the murder of Tupac and his manager, Marion Suge Knight. The motive? Retaliation for a previous altercation between Diddy and Tupac. Kading alleges, just like Keffe D, that Diddy wanted to send a message and protect his reputation in the music industry. He supposedly enlisted the help of a gang member to carry out the hit, orchestrating a plan that would forever change the course of hip-hop history. But the story doesn't end there. In a twisted turn of events, it is claimed that Suge Knight, in retaliation for Tupac's death, hired another gang member to kill Christopher Biggie Smalls Wallace. This alleged cycle of violence and revenge further deepens the web of connections surrounding these tragic events. It's important to note that these claims have not been officially confirmed by the LAPD, leaving room for skepticism and further investigation. However, the documentary and book have sparked renewed interest in the case and prompted a reevaluation of the evidence. However, looking at the testimony from both Kading and Keffe D, Diddy might have a lot to answer for, and Snoop might need to come clean about what he knows regarding the murder of Tupac